and had a good weekend actually because in the country of Hungary, um, authoritarian rule took a hit. Hello, Rachel. Hello, Claire. Hello, Christine. I want to take a few minutes this morning and just talk about just reflections on what's been happening and what's ongoing and what we can look forward to this week. I titled this talk, The People Have a Lot More Power, I think I put it, than they think or that they believe. Hello, Lulu. Sundays are turning into kind of interesting days for me. I spend a lot of my Sundays. I try to stay off. Yesterday, I did a hour long talk with Neurodivergent Hodgepodge. That was kind of nice. It was just about art and writing and creative things. Hi, Mary. Hi, Sandro. Hi, Kevin. And then after I got done with that talk, I spent a little bit of time on notes. I'm just kind of seeing what people have to say, and we're constantly gauging where people's minds are at. And we've been doing that since the 2024 election. And a lot of people have just been offering their comments that are just concessions. And I'm sick of hearing people who aren't willing to fight and who are naysayers. I mean, if you've got the energy to say something like, oh, that'll never going to work, then just don't say it. I don't want to hear it anymore. And I think people still don't have a clear concept of the extent to which artificial bots influence our social media and our commentary that's on there, and how much it programs how we think about things. People have been saying since the 2024 election, they've been repeating nonsensical things like you can't get out of a dictatorship with voting. Well, yesterday proved that's not true. In Hungary, the people rejected their authoritarian rule through voting. And here in the United States, we can do the same. But having witnessed that, I felt myself becoming a little bit hostile for all the people. Hi, American citizen. For all these bots and all these profiles, these anonymous profiles who sit there and try to act like we don't have any power, that it's all useless, that we might as well just, I don't know what, concede, because it's like this passive thing. And we have to remember that the forces that are against us in the world, they're not going to tell us to just submit. They aren't going to say those words. Instead, they browbeat us. They erode our coalition. They attack us. We have to become familiar with the strategies of oppressors, particularly now in this digital age. And I've been telling everybody again and again and again, this is not something that I anticipated happening in my life. But I've spent, hi Bree, hi Judy, everybody, hi American citizen. I've spent my whole life writing in one form or another, sending out articles to magazines, sending out articles to digital magazines. I've had blogs, and I've just seen the evolution of how nefarious forces try to influence us with anonymous comments. And they always write their comments in a way it's the same as any other abusive relationship. They insult you. They make you feel like you're worthless. They make you feel like you have no power. And the more we recognize that we have power, the more effective we are at changing our reality. I keep seeing these comments. The article I wrote today, and it's my deeply held personal belief, which I'm allowed to have, right? I'm allowed to have deeply held personal beliefs. People have to respect that I have deeply held personal beliefs. And one of my deeply held personal beliefs is that the current president is illegitimate. He cheated in 2024. He was indicted for cheating in 2020. And he was found guilty of 34 counts of business fraud related to election interference in 2016. The president, the person in the Oval Office, is corrupt. He is a liar. He is a criminal. And I do not believe that he is the legitimate president. I think the legitimate president is Kamala Harris. And I think we need to start saying that. I think that puts a lot of pressure on this administration that's already feeling a lot of pressure. The Epstein files is huge pressure. This disaster of an unconstitutional military engagement, otherwise known as terrorism, is causing a lot of pressure. We're going to see pressure in gas prices. We're going to see a lot of pressure in a lot of different ways. There's pressure on this administration, but there's also going to be pressure on we, the people, to just endure it, to ride it out. This is our moment. We have to seize power. That line, give them an inch and they take a mile, that has to be us. But instead of, the corruption of this administration, we see an inch of daylight. We have to take a mile of humanitarianism. We have to push hard that way. And we can't act like anything we get is ever enough. And we have to just completely obliterate the anti-humanitarian ideology that has become so prevalent in the United States. It has to go. We have to have accountability. And it's been stunning to watch over the year how much the mindset of the public has changed. And I was further along. Good morning, Bree. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Judy. I was further along on that than many people were because I've been doing a lot of work in anti-racism. I've seen how my immigrant wife has been cheated and treated by this administration. Just the way the United States of America, the deplorable way this country treats people. It has to be fixed. And it's going to require a massive humanitarian movement to counter the anti-humanitarian establishment that already exists. We're seeing it. We're seeing it begin. It's starting to develop, but we all have to do more. And a lot of doing more is calling out people or bots or whatever they are when they make inappropriate comments, and people when they make them in real life. So I think actually what I want you to do is just when you identify somebody as a bot comment, you need to block it. You need to get away from that. Don't try to convince them. Don't get into online arguments. You can do like one or two exchanges to validate that you're talking to a bot, but don't waste your time and effort. You are much better served writing a letter to the editor. They do this by design. They want you to waste your effort, your activism in useless actions. Fighting with bots is useless. Like I said, write a letter to the editor, complain. It is so important to get these messages out there. I think letters to the editor might be more important than calling up your congressman because I don't think they really listen to that. But I mean, if you can do that on speed dial, do that too. Send the letters, say the names. Hi, bathroom guy. Yep, peace. And make sure that people in your community feel they have permission to speak out. But I want to say something that happened to me yesterday. Because I've been posting this. Because I think Kamala, that's my belief, my opinion, is that Kamala is our legitimate president. That the last election was stolen, and that represents our easiest path. Restoring Kamala to her rightful position represents our easiest path to get out of this mess. Well, I posted something to that effect yesterday. And somebody jumped on there and it's like, well, she takes AIPAC money. And it's like, aren't we supposed to hate that now? So I'm like, okay, let me look at this profile. And it was a profile with an animated picture of a dog. And the profile name was Tesla Dog. And it had 8 supporters. So I'm just like, this is clearly a bot. This is clearly and it's obvious because they're referencing Narcan Leon, both with Doge and with the cars. And what is interesting to me is how that works, where that division is out there. You have to understand. Somebody has programmed all these bots. They spend all this money on it. Maybe it's the money that is taken away because the Pentagon can never pass an audit. I mean, there's all this money that's unaccounted for out there. There's a lot of money that is spent influencing our mentality. I mean, it's the MK Ultra, it's the mind control stuff that they do. I'm walking you through the mechanism because when you write enough and you see these comments come up on your notes, that you take a little bit of a hit until you recognize what's at stake. And it's like, okay, this guy's a bot. And once you recognize what's happening, you understand that when you write these comments, that get that kind of response, that draw the attention of these nefarious forces, it's because you've touched on a message that they don't want to see get traction. I think because, and this is my thought here, is because that comment I got was from Tesla Dog. That kind of suggests to me that there's a group related to Narcan Leon that does not want anybody talking about whether or not the 2024 election was stolen, because they are putting out efforts out there to manipulate social media. They're trying to manipulate and direct that narrative. I feel we have to push hard on our representatives to make them ensure vote security. And again, we have an open door for this, because that's literally the only thing the Republicans ever talk about is election fraud. And it's like, okay, you guys have brought it up. Let's make sure that the counts are right. There is no reason the Democrats shouldn't be doing this. There's no reason the Democrats shouldn't make that part of their campaign. We want election integrity. They have their audit. The Democrats have their audit that they refuse to release. I've been thinking about that now. And so I think we know, I'm coming to the conclusion that yes, our opponents, these anti-humanitarian movements, do not want us talking about the legitimacy, whether or not, they don't want us speculating on whether Kamala Harris is the legitimate president. That scares them. And if it scares them, it's good for us. So that's why I think we should do it. Now, another line of attacks that I get is when people start attacking Kamala Harris. And I get people's frustration, because I wanted her to fight. And actually, in the aftermath of the election, I couldn't believe what had happened. I didn't once for 1 second believe that was the legitimate result. And I was just assuming, because she's a prosecutor and she's a brilliant woman, that she was involved with something where they were doing some investigations. They weren't going to make a frivolous declaration. But I never once, right up until the inauguration, did I believe that it was going to transpire as it did. They had him on the Insurrection Act too. I mean, he's an insurrectionist. He's not eligible to be president because he's an insurrectionist, and they defaulted on all that. So we have to consider what's going on there. And first of all, what I've been telling people, the ones that come out and attack Kamala, is that say, look, and this is something written in stone. We do not attack Black women and blame them for the crimes of white supremacists. Okay? That is just something that has to be hardwired into your mind. We have to give Kamala the benefit of the doubt. We don't know the entirety of the situation she was facing and what she was told. And perhaps more importantly, in 2024, that was a different time. What we've learned since 2024 till now, the veil has been pulled back, and we have seen evidence of the corruption within the government, within the Republicans, and also within the Democratic Party. And we just know. I mean, there are people, even when, Biden had won the primary, it was the Biden-Harris ticket. When Biden withdrew, yes, that's why you have somebody else on your ticket. So it was Harris that had to be the nominee. And yet there were people like Nancy Pelosi who called for a new primary. Because Pelosi, I feel, does not like, she doesn't like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She doesn't like Kamala Harris. And Pelosi, I feel, actively works within the Democratic Party to suppress our progressives. And she's sitting on her $200 million fortune. But let's go back again. 2024. Remember, American Citizen, we're setting up to talk. Let's talk about that on, I'm going to talk with you and Margaret Williams. So let's do that then. I have to cut this one short today because I'm doing an interview at 9 o'clock with another congressional candidate. But American Citizen, right? Do you want to invite me in? There's info you may want to hear about VR systems. I talked about that a lot with John Lucione, but I will be excited to talk to you about that. But this has to be a shortened talk today. Also, I'm not feeling 100% today. I'm realizing it as I'm talking here. I'm a little slower than normal, but I am looking forward to talking to you about that, and I want to get that information. But today's a big day. But I wanted to just say, I think this is really important. The critical thing I wanted to get to. Yep. Oh, good. Yes. And I wanted to get into that too. 2024. Again, if you've read Kamala's book, as I did, you can tell she was working through the process. I think it's going to take a while for everybody to come to this realization of the extent of the corruption within, thank you, American citizen, the extent of the corruption within the Democratic Party. This is why we critically must vote out virtually all the incumbents. And that's why I said we have power, people. We have a lot of power. There's a lot of things we can do. And with regarding elections, I mean, we just have to start getting organized. It's a state level thing. I've been talking to Lisa Hamline. These are the people that count our votes, to make sure our votes are correct. It's always on the state level. You can get involved. We can file lawsuits on the state level. That's where our power is. But we have to start with that narrative. We have to start normalizing it. And here's what the conclusion I've come to about politics. And I think it's something I didn't realize before, and I've realized now, I've come to understand now. We make the assumption, we make the assumption that our representatives lead, but the reality is they follow. Our representatives follow. And our politicians, our people in our political system in the United States of America, they try to gauge the pulse of America. Okay? And we've been seeing this again and again because the Republicans keep stealing elections. They keep stealing them. But consider how we responded in 2024. After November, and our side is rational. Our side is law-abiding. The left is law-abiding. We are compassionate. The election result was announced. What did we do? Well, there was silence. There weren't marches. It was a gut punch. It was a gut punch that lasted for months, right? And I think we just have to understand. You compare that with 2020. And it was announced that they lost, and the right immediately, they threw their violent and lawless march on the Capitol, right? And we didn't ever really have accountability for that, but our politicians are kind of out of touch. So even though that represented just a small fraction of the political mindset in this country, it was enough to influence how our politicians respond. Because again, our politicians are not leaders, they are followers. And so I think in the aftermath of the 2024 election, when we were all gut shot, we were waiting, and we didn't know again the full extent of everything that's happened. I think that's why, if it was a close election, I think I still consider it treason. I think we should be out there investigating things. We should be out there ensuring that our votes are fair. But again and again, this country is too big for one person to manage every little aspect of it. And we've seen, in the last couple election cycles, they just allow the Republicans to cheat. But that brings us back to Hungary, and I hope I'm pronouncing them. Is it Hungary or Hungary? I don't know how to pronounce that. I should check that. But when you have an overwhelming turnout, the authoritarians do step down, even with compromised voting systems, and they had to be compromised voting systems. You don't have authoritarian rule and have completely viable voting systems. But the United States, no vote has ever been completely openly honest. Hi, Eric. With an effort to ensure the will of the people is known. We can't defer to that. What we have to do is insist, and we have to make sure the will of the people is known. And that's why these No Kings protests are so important. That visual, those huge crowds, those law-abiding crowds where they see and they start to get scared. We can't see it from where we are. We are just the people, right? And I say that even though that's where all the power is. But it's easy to dismiss that we have the power. It's easy to overlook it because we're the ones having to pay more for gas, and we're the ones with our backs against the wall, and we're the ones that jump on social media and ask questions, and we're the ones who are confronted by all the bot accounts that try to deter us from thinking along certain lines. But the other side of that, these rich people, these billionaires who are cowardly people, who live their entire lives terrified that the people will see the thing that they know to be obvious. And what that thing is that the billionaires are exploiting us and they're abusing us. And they do everything they can to stop us from recognizing that. And they put us against each other and they have us fight. And especially when you jump online and you say, hey, why don't we do this? And they say, well, and they are the ones who come out and say, oh, you're a special kind of foolish, aren't you, if you think you can vote your way out of a dictatorship? It's coming from the oligarchs who say this because they know that what they have to do is make us feel disempowered, like there's nothing we can do. And that's where the lie is. And we have to stand up and demand of our representatives that they protect us, that they do what we elected them to do. And we let the Democrats get away with not doing it, because we gave them all the power they needed in 2020. And we just was like, okay, we're done. Let them do it. All this is not, I'm not blaming people for this because it's all by nefarious design. This era of social media, yeah. They got him. They got him, Eric. They got it. And yeah, that's the emphasis that I'm trying to make. I mean, I for this whole year, we've had people telling us you can't vote your way out. And I said, you guys who have been saying that need to sit down and shut up because Hungary just showed that we can vote them out. It is. And yes, the more and more we do this, the more and more we empower ourselves. Eric says, MAGA red and blue need to pay fucking attention. Judgment Day is coming. And it starts with us talking and keep talking. And when you get those bots, those naysaying bots, the ones that are just trying to tell you why the things we're doing can't work. I had some guy yesterday and I was just talking about, again, my firm belief, Kamala Harris is the legitimate president. This guy says, well, no mechanism. He's like, there's no point in looking back. No mechanism exists to restore her. It's like, yeah, there does. Why are you even saying this? Why are you wasting this effort coming onto my post and saying this stuff that is not true? And then they want to put it on you again. They turn it back. Yeah, they want to put it back on you. Like I have to convince him. No, you're just done. If you've got nothing but negative things to say, I want fighters. I don't want people that concede. I'm tired of it. And then people are like, well, I'm just being realistic. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're a bot. What you're trying to do is divide people, and you're trying to make people feel hopeless and helpless and powerless. And that's not the message we need. And this is why I keep telling you guys, stop subscribing to people like Adam Kinzinger. Stop doing it. That guy is programming you the wrong way. He's programming you. He's directing your thinking in directions that will not help us because he is a Republican. He just wants to get rich. And he wants to, his power is all derived from the old system. And we have to just completely dismantle that old system. And we have to remember, that we're the adults. This is a country that is for the people and of the people, We have the right to choose. We don't have to put up with exploitative healthcare, that's connected to our business so that our employers have power over us because they're the ones who get to determine what our healthcare cost is, where the cost of our healthcare is hidden because it's taken out, before we even see that money. I wrote a post the other day. If we get universal healthcare, all that expense that goes into your check, that's your healthcare cost, that now comes to you. That's a massive raise. You're going to see a huge amount of extra money coming in. Then I had people flooding my things. Well, I don't think that'll happen. Yes, it will. All these people that are ignorant and who are regurgitating this lie, these mechanisms, these narratives that are designed to keep us complacent and hopeless. You have to expel them. You have to get rid of that because Hungary showed we can vote out this authoritarian regime. And yeah, the mechanism is pretty clear. If we start demanding insight into our voting, we start doing lawsuits, we start ensuring that it was whatever happened. I want to verify it. I want audits. I want recounts. The Republicans continue to have recounts of 2020. Why do the Republicans get rights the rest of us don't have? Why? Why are they the special citizens? Why do they get special constitutional protections that we don't get? Why is that? It should make you angry. Anger is a good place to be because we have every right to ensure our vote was counted and that the will of the people was done. And the reason in 2024 we had this capitulation, at least in part because there's a lot of blue MAGA, there's a lot of blue MAGA that is quite content to allow Republicans to win. But there's also a whole pressure system where they look and say, well, it's close enough. And they sort of defer to the side that makes the bigger noise. I mean, that's part of it. I'm not justifying it. I'm just explaining the reality. It's time for the side of reason to make noise. We have power. You need to make noise. And we need to shut down all those other groups. You have no responsibility to sit there and have an argument with somebody who doesn't, who is pretending like they can't see your viewpoint. If we can prove that this election, the 2024 election, was fraudulent and that people adjusted the votes, there are a lot of people that we can start arresting. Every single act, single act should be investigated. I would say that unless we have several arrests in just about every single election where you're not doing our job, because the right wing cheats. The right wing cheats. White supremacy is an ideology of cheating. White supremacy exists in the United States today. We have to fight back against it. They don't look at contests as honest. They do what they can to cheat. They want the outcome. That's the game they play. The idea of fair play is not in their mentality. Because white supremacists exist, we know that they cheat. That's who they are. And we have to hold them accountable. We can't respect their viewpoint. We can't allow them to violate our laws. Look at all the laws that get violated. Look at all of them that are being violated now. Every day, with every action of this corrupt regime, law after law after law is broken. These things aren't optional. And our side has to be the side that rouses itself and holds the extreme right accountable. They have to be accountable when they cheat. And we have to demand. We have to find the money and fundraise. And so today I'm going to be interviewing a couple congressional candidates. The first one didn't confirm that he's coming yet, but I'll assume he'll be there. I'm always flexible with these candidates, because sometimes they just have so much on their plate. And they're just like, yeah, if you remember, it's fine. If not, we'll just reschedule. That's fine. So I'm kind of open where I let them come and go. It's supposed to be with Anthony Christian and I are going to be talking at 9. So I'm going to wrap it up here in a second. And I'm just going to continue to push this. I mean, our candidates, I want them as they go into the primaries to say, I will demand a recount. I think you actually need to demand recounts in primaries too, because the Democrats are not the best at having free and fair primaries. There's a lot going on. But the power rests in us speaking up and not conceding. And it's in recognizing our power. We have a lot more power than we have allowed ourselves to even believe that we have. And we don't have to feel hopeless. Like the deck is stacked against us. It's rigged. But we have integrity and we have the numbers. And that's why we're going to win. And I just need more and more people to just adopt this mindset. Don't tell me problems. Tell me solutions. If you see something, if you have a question, if it's a legitimate question, ask it. But if it's a question designed to tell me to steal my motivation, then remain silent. Because we're going to continue to work here. And the people, as I said, do not blame the overqualified Black women who have been suppressed by the evils of white supremacy. You blame the white supremacists if you have to blame somebody. And I think we can look at a person like Kamala Harris, and it's true. I mean, she, it's like the political reality of 2024 is different than the political reality of today. We're seeing a massive movement of people who are rejecting the APAC money. We're seeing a massive influx of candidates who are refusing to take it. It's something we're discussing. But yeah, I mean, and she was part of working within the system. The majority of our candidates, Democratic candidates, have taken that money. That's something we have to change. And we have to recognize there are some Democrats who are blue MAGA, who are absolutely corrupt, and they have to be ousted, legally and lawfully primaried. There are others that have been working within the system. Like if it's your first day on a job and it's a corrupt business, you might not recognize that in your first term. I mean, Kamala was only a one-term senator, I believe, and then she was the vice president. So she's had a limited amount of time in the federal government. But now it's become obvious. And so rather than, because there's always this tremendous pressure, like we're supposed to instantly accept all these Republicans who claim that they've seen the light. Again, I don't feel that Kinzinger has seen the light. I think he is hurting us. But there's all this pressure, and they start saying purity tests. And it's like, well, there's pressure to accept the Republicans. There's never pressure to accept the good Democrats, the progressive Democrats. So we have to turn our mindset there. And I honestly feel Kamala was working within the system, but our fastest path to getting out of this mess is to establish that the 2024 election, we have to look into it. Was it fraudulent? Was it legitimate? And if it was not legitimate, we have to restore the legitimate president to her position. And that's the fastest way out. That goes right up until the next election. That's going to be a valid topic of conversation. And we need to make our representatives more aware, the ones running these primaries, about the reality of white supremacy in this country and their willingness to cheat elections, because it's a fact. It happens. And we have ample evidence that they do that. They've done that throughout the whole history, from Jim Crow laws to poll taxes to their literacy tests to everything. White supremacists cheat. They're an ideology of genocide. They're an ideology of child rape. And they have a lot of political power in the United States right now. And that's what we're fighting. And now everybody is, becoming aware that that's what we're fighting. And we are not going to quit or concede or stop fighting. So I think that's it for now. Thank you guys for being here. Like I said, in just a few minutes, 12 minutes, I'll be on again. I forgot the name of this candidate. I'll go look into it. I got to prepare for that. But that's on at 9, along with Alex. No, Anthony Christian. Alex is the name of the candidate. Yeah, I'm a little groggy today. I'm tired. I guess I didn't get enough rest, but it's going to be less work. I feel like we're over I was talking to my wife about it. Last week, we had that threat of nuclear war, and that was hard. I mean, I felt exhausted. This week doesn't feel like it's at that level. I hope we've reached the apex of abuse, and our power continues to gather. With every election, we get more seats. With every time we talk together, we have a better understanding of our ability to navigate this and to dismantle this corrupt regime and restore decency. Maybe we will bring decency to the United States for the first time. And we are not going to quit until everybody's protected. And that is our objective. So don't listen to bots. Don't listen to liars. Don't listen to anybody who tells you don't have power. Because above all else, these oligarchs are afraid of us. The billionaires are afraid of us because we do have power and they know it. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Hopefully, I'll have time to stop in and say hi to you again throughout the week. I always appreciate these talks. I'll make more of an effort to listen to comments next time. I'm just a little out of it, but it's going to be a good day. All right, talk to you later.